What if the absolute most common piece of career advice you've ever received, specifically the relentless command to follow your passion, is actually the exact thing making you miserable at work?
Wow. Okay, that is a bold statement to
It
start with.
really is, right. But welcome to today's deep dive. We are going to completely dismantle almost everything you thought you knew about finding a fulfilling career. I've been digging into this fascinating, really research-dense document simply titled Career Capital versus Passion. And honestly, it fundamentally changes how we should be thinking about our professional lives.
I have to admit, hearing that follow your passion might be terrible advice well, it's immediately jarring. I mean, it is so deeply baked into our culture.
Oh, absolutely.
You hear it in every commencement speech, you read it in best-selling books. It's probably the internal monologue of anyone, including you listening right now, who's trying to figure out their life path.
Yeah, we're basically brainwashed with it from day one.
Mm.
The mission for our conversation today is to unpack why this whole passion hypothesis is empirically flawed and explore what occupational psychology actually tells us we should be doing to build a meaningful career.
Well, I haven't read this lecture yet, but I am coming to this with a lot of curiosity and, frankly, a pretty healthy dose of skepticism. Because if we aren't supposed to follow our passions, what exactly are we supposed to be following?
Okay, let's unpack this from the very beginning by looking at what the text calls the passion hypothesis.
Mhm.
This is the baseline cultural assumption that you, and basically everyone else, have a pre-existing passion.
Like a hidden talent or a destiny sort of thing.
Exactly. It assumes there is this stable magical interest just waiting inside you. And according to this framework, your only job in life is to do some deep introspection, discover that hidden passion, and then match it to a career. The logical conclusion society draws is that aligning your job with this pre-existing passion is the guaranteed recipe for professional success and happiness.
Wait, hold on. Doesn't that actually work for some people, though?
What do you mean?
Well, what about the professional musician who has been obsessively playing the piano since they were 5 years old? Or the athlete who always knew they wanted to play in the major leagues? It seems like for those specific individuals, the passion hypothesis is exactly what led them to a fulfilling life.
Right.
If the advice is so inherently flawed, why do we have these glaring, famous examples of it working perfectly?
That is exactly the pushback that gets addressed right out of the gate in the text. And it all comes down to a classic case of survivorship bias.
Ah, survivorship bias. Because we only see the winners.
You got it. We hear from that successful musician or that star athlete on talk shows because they made it. But we never hear from the thousands of people who pursued the exact same strategy, followed their passion with just as much heart, and found it economically and psychologically unworkable.
That makes a lot of sense. The failures don't write memoirs.
Exactly. And to back this up, the lecture cites a fascinating 2018 study by researchers Paul O'Keefe, Carol Dweck, and Gregory Walton. They looked at something called implicit theories of interest. Basically, they studied people who have a fixed mindset about interests.
Meaning they believe passions are just traits waiting to be discovered, like a buried treasure.
Yes, exactly like buried treasure.
Yeah.
And what do you think happens to those people when things get tough?
Well, let me guess. People with that fixed mindset about their passions probably don't handle failure very well.
Nope, not at all.
Because if you think your passion is a perfect preordained match from the universe, then the very first moment a job gets hard or boring, you're going to assume you made a massive mistake. You probably think, well, this must not be my true passion after all, and just quit.
You hit the nail on the head. The study found exactly that. They give up much faster when their work gets difficult. But people with a growth mindset, who believe interests are things you cultivate and grow over time, naturally show way more resilience. They are far more open to exploring outside their immediate comfort zone.
So the mindset completely dictates the outcome.
Right. And this completely flips the causality of passion. There was a famous 1997 Yale study by Amy Wrzesniewski on jobs, careers, and callings that illustrates this perfectly. She looked at how people orient to their work. And surprisingly, she found that hospital cleaners and administrative assistants were just as likely to report having a deep calling as highly paid surgeons.
Wait, a hospital cleaner over a surgeon? That feels completely
I
counterintuitive.
know, it sounds crazy at first.
How does someone sweeping floors or emptying trash bins report the same level of profound calling as someone saving lives in an operating room? I'm genuinely trying to wrap my head around how that works in reality.
It's all about how they approach the work itself. The cleaners who felt a calling weren't just executing a list of chores. They engaged in what the researchers call job crafting.
Job crafting. What does that look like on a hospital floor?
Well, they would do things like rearrange artwork in the rooms of comatose patients to stimulate their brains. Or they would intentionally take extra time to chat with elderly patients who didn't get any visitors. They built deep, masterful competence in caring for the hospital environment as a whole.
Oh, wow. So they made the job bigger than the job description.
Exactly. The predictive variable for loving their work wasn't the intrinsic initial passion match of being a cleaner. It was the mastery and care they brought to it.
So what you're saying is that a calling or a passion is actually an output of depth and mastery, not an input you need to have on day one.
Yes, exactly.
That completely changes the paradigm for the listener. It really challenges you to audit your own beliefs about your career right now. Are you sitting around frustrated, waiting for a perfect passion match to fall into your lap, instead of rolling up your sleeves and doing the hard work of building mastery where you already are?
It's a tough pill to swallow, but yes.
If a cleaner can find a profound calling in a hospital through craft and empathy, it kind of shatters the whole myth that you need a glamorous, high-status job to feel deeply fulfilled.
I completely agree. And if passion is the output, the reward at the end of the road, we need a totally new strategy for the input. This is where the lecture gets into an alternative framework popularized by Cal Newport called the craftsman mindset.
The craftsman mindset. Okay, how does that work?
Instead of operating with a passion mindset, which basically asks, what can my career offer me? The craftsman mindset asks, what can I offer my career? It treats your professional life almost like an economic transaction.
An economic transaction. That sounds a little cold, doesn't it?
It does at first, but you focus entirely on building rare and valuable skills, which allows you to amass what Newtrip calls career capital.
I like the economic analogy, but let me push back a little here. What exactly are we buying with this accumulated career capital?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right, because it's one thing to be incredibly skilled and valuable to an employer. Let's say you're a brilliant, highly skilled corporate tax accountant. You have tons of career capital. But if doing corporate taxes makes you utterly miserable, we are right back to square one. How does just having a rare and valuable skill set actually translate into the deep, waking up excited career satisfaction that we are all looking for?
You trade that career capital for three very specific psychological traits that genuinely predict satisfaction. You basically buy autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Okay, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Where do those come from?
The lecture breaks down the psychological architecture behind this using self-determination theory, or SDT. This was developed by psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan. SDT basically proves that for any job to be deeply engaging, it absolutely must meet three universal human needs.
I'm assuming those are the three you just mentioned.
Close. First, you need autonomy, which means having a say in how, when, and where you work. Second is competence, which is the undeniable experience of mastery and getting better at something. And third is relatedness, which means feeling a meaningful connection to other people through your work.
This is a huge unlock. If we connect this to the everyday experience of the listener, it rewrites the rules for how you evaluate your job.
It really does.
You shouldn't be judging your current role based on whether it excites your inner childhood dreams. You need to look at it through the lens of those three SDT needs. Do you have any control over your schedule? Are you visibly leveling up your skills? Do you actually respect and connect with your colleagues?
Yeah.
If those three things are missing, it doesn't matter if you are literally working your dream job as a video game tester or a wildlife photographer. You are eventually going to burn out.
And speaking of dream jobs, there is a truly fascinating, almost heartbreaking phenomenon from Deci and Ryan's research called the overjustification effect.
The overjustification effect, what's that?
They found that when you take an intrinsic interest, something you just naturally love doing for its own sake, like painting or writing, and you attach an external reward to it, like a salary, your intrinsic passion reliably decreases.
Wow, really?
Yeah, this has been replicated in over 100 studies. When the amateur painter becomes a commercial graphic designer facing deadlines and client revisions, the pure pleasure they once got from painting almost always evaporates.
Oh, man. This reminds me of a story I heard about someone who absolutely loved baking sourdough bread during the pandemic. It was her pure joy, her weekend ritual.
Oh, I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, so everyone told her she was so good she should monetize it. So she tried to start a micro bakery, and suddenly she's taking orders, managing inventory, dealing with complaining customers who want their bread at 7 in the morning. Within 3 months, she sold her expensive mixer and hasn't baked a single loaf since.
That is the overjustification effect in a nutshell.
The money and the pressure literally killed the magic. Are you seriously telling me this is a universal psychological rule?
It happens all the time. The external reward crowds out the internal joy. You trade a perfectly good hobby for a stressful job that lacks autonomy.
So where does this leave us? Should we just avoid passion entirely and become emotionless robots at work?
No, not at all. The material clarifies that passion absolutely still matters, but we need to understand it through Robert Vallerand's dualistic model of passion. He separates passion into two distinct categories: harmonious passion and obsessive passion.
Okay, obsessive passion sounds like a massive red flag. What does that actually look like in a work environment?
Obsessive passion is an internal compulsion. It feels uncontrollable. Your entire identity gets wrapped up in the job, and it causes severe guilt when you aren't doing it. It reliably leads to burnout.
And harmonious passion.
Harmonious passion, on the other hand, is flexible. It's a self-endorsed engagement that integrates smoothly with the rest of your life. You love the work, but you can put it down.
That distinction is incredibly practical for the listener to apply right now. Think about the times you are most deeply engaged in your career. Are you driving that engagement, or is it driving you?
That's a great way to frame it.
Can you actually take a week off to go on a beach vacation without feeling a gnawing, panicked anxiety that you should be checking emails? Does your intense drive leave room for your physical health or your family?
Usually the answer is no for people who think they're just really passionate.
Exactly. Because if your work is crowding out the rest of your existence, you aren't experiencing a calling. You're riding an obsessive passion that is eventually going to break you down.
That's spot on. And to build that healthy, harmonious passion, we have to look at how we define our ultimate career mission. The lecture references Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who coined the concept of flow.
Hold on, flow is one of those buzzwords that gets thrown around in tech and business all the time. What does this psychologist actually mean by it in this context?
Flow is that magical psychological state where you are so deeply focused on a task that you completely lose track of time. It's when the challenge perfectly matches your skill level.
Okay, so being in the zone.
Right. The argument here is that a true career mission isn't found by meditating on a mountaintop or doing a personality quiz. Instead, it is an emergent property that usually reveals itself at the intersection of two very distinct skills.
An emergent property at an intersection. Can you give me an example of what that looks like?
Sure. Let's use an example from the text. Imagine a standard software engineer. They are good, but there are millions of them. Now imagine that same engineer takes the time to deeply study developmental psychology.
Okay, an engineer who knows child psychology.
Exactly. Suddenly, they possess a unique capability to solve complex educational tech problems for children that pure engineers and pure psychologists literally cannot even see.
That is brilliant. It completely demystifies the whole intimidating concept of finding a life mission. It encourages you to look at what's already in front of you, your adjacent possible.
Yes, you're adjacent possible. I love that term.
You don't need to reinvent yourself or quit your job to travel the world. What weird, highly specific combination of skills do you already possess? Maybe you are an accountant who also deeply understands behavioral economics, or a graphic designer who happens to know a lot about supply chain logistics.
Those are fantastic examples.
The unique problems you can solve at those strange intersections are exactly where your true harmonious passion is waiting to be built.
Exactly. And to make this incredibly actionable, the document actually synthesizes all this research into a 4-phase practical roadmap. It walks through how to engineer a career over a decade. Let's use a hypothetical persona to make this concrete.
That sounds good. Who are we talking about?
Let's say we have a listener named Maya. She's 23 and just got an entry-level job as a marketing copywriter. According to this roadmap, phase 1 is simply acquisition.
Okay, so Maya is in phase 1. What is her day-to-day focus? Is she trying to find her grand purpose in life?
Not at all. In phase 1, Maya just puts her head down, engages in deliberate practice, and builds her primary skill. She adopts that craftsman mindset we talked about.
So she's not worrying about whether writing brochures is her life's calling.
Exactly. She ignores whether she's passionate about the specific brochures she's writing. Her only goal is accumulating career capital by becoming an undeniably excellent writer. Passion isn't required here at all, just curiosity, effort, and repetition.
I cannot emphasize enough how freeing that must be to hear for anyone early in their career or anyone pivoting to a new industry. You don't have to carry the heavy, paralyzing burden of having a grand, world-changing mission on day one.
Right, it takes the pressure completely off.
Maya's only job is just to get remarkably good at something the market values. She is literally just filling up a bank account of career capital so she can spend it later. How long does she stay in this phase?
It can take years, but once her bank account of capital is full, she moves to phase two, which is leverage. This is where Maya cashes in that accumulated career capital to demand those SDT needs.
Autonomy, competence, and relatedness.
Exactly. Because she is now the best copywriter at her firm, she has leverage. She negotiates for autonomy. Maybe she demands to work remotely 4 days a week, or she insists on picking which clients she takes on. She is actively buying control over her life using the skills she built in phase one.
And that leads perfectly into the psychological needs we discussed. By leveraging her skills, she secures autonomy and competence. She is insulating herself against burnout.
Yes, she's protecting her energy.
But a comfortable, autonomous job isn't necessarily a mission. So how does she make the leap to something truly profound?
That brings us to phase three intersection. This is where Maya deliberately adds that secondary domain of expertise to her primary skill. She's already an elite copywriter, but now she starts studying data analytics and consumer psychology in her spare time.
So she's looking for that adjacent possible we talked about.
Exactly. She actively searches for those unique problems only she can solve. She starts writing copy that isn't just creative, but mathematically optimized for conversion in a way none of her peers understand.
Okay, writing and high-level data analytics is a rare combination. I can see how she's stepping into a territory where she is a category of one, which naturally has to lead to the final stage. If she's built the core skill, bought her autonomy, and found her unique intersection, what is the culmination of all this?
The culmination is phase four contribution. This is where Maya deploys her unique intersection at scale. Maybe she leaves the firm and starts her own boutique agency that guarantees conversion rates using her specific methodology.
So she's taking it out into the world.
Yes. This is where a defined mission finally organizes her career energy. And this is the phase where harmonious passion is most reliably present. She wakes up incredibly passionate about her work.
But not because she magically discovered it.
Exactly, because she earned it. She built genuine capability, she leveraged it for autonomy, and she found an intersection that actually matters. It wasn't a birthright. It was forged through deliberate strategic action over time.
Reflecting on this whole journey, from the hospital cleaners to Maya the copywriter, the paradigm shift is just massive. It shifts the entire burden of a good career from internal discovery to external action.
It really does. It puts the control back in your hands.
It is a far more generous and realistic philosophy. It means anyone, in almost any field, can eventually build a career that they are deeply passionate about. You aren't doomed to a life of misery just because you didn't have a burning desire to be an astronaut or a painter when you were 10 years old.
That really is the biggest surprise for me, too. Realizing that passion is not the cause of a great career, but rather its finest consequence. So if there is one single liberating idea I want you, the listener, to walk away with today, it is this: relieve yourself of the agonizing, paralyzing pressure to find your passion today. You don't need to know what it is yet. You just need to focus on becoming undeniably excellent at something useful.
And I will leave you with a final, provocative question to ponder as you go about your week. If passion is truly the ultimate reward for mastery, what is a task in your life right now? Maybe a project at work you currently find totally tedious that might actually become your profound passion if you simply dedicated yourself to becoming undeniably excellent at it.